I want to welcome you to Dream Chasers Radio with me, your host, Yaya Diamond. What's up, peoples? How you doing? It is a great day, you guys. We have an amazing author on the show today, and I want to welcome him to the show. His name is Dan Korn. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Oh, thank you so much. So tell me about yourself.
Well, I'm a teacher. I've been a teacher for going on 27 years, taught history, and love it. I absolutely love it. I love to turn the light bulb on and excite other people into learning about history. That has been my thing for many years. I've taught at all the levels, from middle school, high school, junior college, university level, and I am now back at the high school level. I had retired and was asked to come out of retirement and start a brand new high school program at a local charter school here in Union County, which is just about 20 miles or so outside of Charlotte, North Carolina. And I received a phone call asking me if I would be willing to do this, and I am literally building their program from the ground up.
Wow.
And I'm their first history teacher, and I am the person who's going to be in charge of building that entire program for them. So I'm very excited about that.
That sounds amazing. I would be excited about that too. So that explains a lot to me too, that you love history because you're writing books. But I mean, being a history teacher doesn't really kind of include you in writing books. I mean, why did you start writing?
This goes back when I was in college. What happened was I was always fascinated by the Civil War.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to learn more. And I was lucky that I was able to take a course that in the summer on the Civil War, where we spent the last week of the class actually touring Civil War battlefields. So that was kind of neat. That was very unusual. Yeah. And at the time, I had asked my professor, was very interested, started getting more and more interested in the Civil War, if he could recommend a novel or something that was about the Civil War. And at the time, it was a rather obscure book. It hadn't really made it anywhere yet, but he suggested a book by the name of Killer Angels.
Okay.
Killer Angels eventually became the movie Gettysburg.
Okay.
All right, but it was years later. When Michael Shiloh wrote it, I read it, and he told the story through the eyes of the commanders. Mm-hmm. Very personal kind of thing, and it really hooked me. And I really thought I really liked that. But then something happened while we were on the trip, and most people do not believe in this stuff. I do. I've been a Civil War and Revolutionary War reenactor as well as a teacher and everything, and I've seen and heard things you just can't explain scientifically. So while at one of the battlefields, a place called the Wilderness, I have what can only be described as a supernatural experience, where it felt like something very, very cold was touching me, and there was nobody near me at the time. And it was like 90 degrees outside at that time too, in Virginia. Anyone who's a Civil War fan knows what the Wilderness is all about. But when I got home and I told my folks about this, my dad, who was a police officer, practically interrogated me about this whole thing. And he finally told me, so you make sure you tell your grandmother about this. So the next time I saw her, which was just a couple of weeks later, at her home, she pulled out the family's genealogy Bible and found a page in the Bible with an ancestor of mine who had fought in the Civil War and was MIA at that particular battle. His body never recovered. I was hooked.
Oh my gosh.
I was hooked. I had been kicking around the idea of trying to write a story anyway. And one of the things that had always fascinated me as a child was Disney used to have, of course, their Sunday night program, The Wonderful World of Disney. And he really is the man who started miniseries in a lot of ways. And he did all these different things of American heroes and everything. And one of the characters that he put, and there was a young man called John Lincoln Clem, otherwise known to history as Johnny Shiloh. And the more I watched that movie, I read the stories, and the more I read, the more I realized I wanted to write about this stuff. So as a college junior, I began to work on my very first novel, which was about Shiloh, which is in Tennessee. Everybody wrote about Pennsylvania and Virginia, Robert E. Lee, et cetera, but I wasn't seeing anything at all about the war out west. So I sat down to write this thing, and again, using the same idea of writing it through the commander's eyes and so on. I wrote about 170 pages at the time and developed writer's block.
Oh, no.
Stopped completely, put it away, and I didn't pick it up other than to look at it for years. And then one day, my daughter, by this time I was, married, had a family and home and teaching school responsibilities, found the manuscript. She was looking for something to do for a Civil War project, and she knew her dad had a lot of stuff. When she found the manuscript, she brought it to me, demanding to know why it wasn't finished. And when I tried to explain to her about life, she looked at me over the top of it was a great big orange notebook, and she says to me, "Daddy, aren't you the guy who was always telling people to finish what they started?"
Oh, she got you.
Yep.
She got you.
Yep. Hoisted upon my own petard, so to speak.
Oh,
well,
gosh.
when I began to work on it again, because she bugged me about it. She harassed me. And I realized then now I knew a lot more than I had before. I had people now who could help me, actually help me do research and proofread and everything. One of my fellow teachers would literally take my manuscript, go home at night. She'd take a chapter or so a night, sit at home, reading in bed with a red pen, going through it and making suggestions and corrections. That's my mentor teacher, so to speak. Mm-hmm. And we finally finished it all up. I had relocated down to North Carolina. I was recruited to come teach in North Carolina out of New York State, upstate New York. And we finished it just as I was helping to open up a brand new high school. This was a regular high school. And got it published, and everybody went crazy over the fact, oh my God, we've got an author on our, all this business. But it's been it led to, with that, it led to some national recognition on different ways. One of the things I've always remembered is one of the first talks I actually gave on the book was in front of a historical preservation organization, local. And when I got all done, I'll never forget this. An elderly gentleman walks up to me, looks at me, and he says, "I was raised on that battlefield," like that. And I looked at him and I said, "Okay, did I get it right?" And he looks at me and he says, "Boy, if I didn't know you was a damn Yankee, I'd have sworn you were one of us. Good job," like that.
Oh my God.
Yes. And then his wife read the book. He bought a copy, had me autograph it, and his wife read the book, and I had stuck one of my business cards in it. And she emailed me afterwards saying that how impressed she was by the book. She said, "I can't believe that someone from upstate New York wrote a book that's like this." She says, "How did you do this and not be a Southerner?" Like that. Well, it was just trying to do it a balanced way. One of the people who reviewed it, actually several people have reviewed it. When I was originally writing the manuscript, it became the basis for my master's thesis. And one of the people who was involved in reviewing that particular thing was a gentleman by the name of James McPherson, who, of course, wrote Battle Cry of Freedom and won the Pulitzer Prize for that. Yeah. He read my manuscript and autographed it and put a Post-it note on it that said, "Dan, this is really good. Get it published. Jim McPherson." Well, okay.
Wow.
But then when it actually went online on sale, Newt Gingrich received a copy of this, read the book, and the next day after he finished reading the book, went on Amazon and gave it a 5-star rating. What is it?
Oh my gosh.
So it has, of course, led to different things, other interviews. People are saying, they know who I am now. I walk into different things, and it's just, eventually it led to the sequel.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's the first one, which of course is Dawn's Gray Steel. It's about 250 pages or so. It is very, very, very historically accurate, but it's a story. Mm-hmm. But I know for a fact, because I've received messages from different teachers across the country, they're using my novel as a book in their classes.
Oh my gosh, that is so cool.
Right.
That is so cool.
Yeah. In fact, one of them just the other day, I received an email from she said, I just set up my digital library for my students, and your book is in my digital library.
Oh my God.
Okay. So that's, those are the kinds of things that make, okay, I'm reaching people with this.
Yeah, definitely.
When I wrote it, I purposely finished it, the final chapter, with the idea of possibly someday, if this worked, writing a sequel to it, and leaving the people to have to guess who it is that's actually in this particular chapter regarding the book. Well, the book, if you know anything at all about the Battle of Shiloh, there's a number of very famous people that were involved in this. Of course, was Grant, Albert Sidney Johnston on the Confederate side, Braxton Bragg, Pierre Beauregard, William Tecumseh Sherman, and Nathan Bedford Forrest. And Forrest is actually the gentleman I don't name in the last chapter, because what he did at that battle to end that fight was an absolute incredible thing. And people just don't understand, how could a human being survive something like that? Well, he did. He was shot at very, very close range in the last part of the fighting at a place called Fallen Timbers. Mm-hmm. Grabbed a young soldier up off the ground, held him up against his back and everything, using him for cover, and rode away from the fight, and then dropped the guy afterwards. People are just going, how did that devil ever manage to do that? And that's how I finished it, basically, was Sherman looking at his people and saying, well, I bet we see that devil again. Wow. And finished it that way. It led to the sequel. A lot of people came up to me and said, are you going to write another one? Mm-hmm. And, well, it took quite a while to write this one, but it didn't take as long to do the second one, although the second one, as you can see, is about 3 times the size of the first one. And it's the Tennessee Thunder, of course, is that one is named. Uh-huh. What I did was I continued the story of the armies, but now, of course, they have different commanders. And so I tell the story, again, through the eyes of the commanders, but I start with Stones River, or Murfreesboro, if you're in the South, Braxton Bragg versus William Rosecrans. Stones River was the last major battle of 1862, and it's a very, very bloody battle, but it ends as a Union victory. And so Lincoln has a win at the end of the year to offset what happened with Fredericksburg. Right. Okay. And I tell the story of the different people who are involved and everything. Now, here's where I'm a little different than a lot of writers. Mm-hmm. I actually do my own research. Okay, I got you. Okay, and I go to the places that I'm writing about. Oh, okay. So I have actually walked those fields with the people who know the story. When I was researching Stones River, when I actually went down to the Stones River and was looking at the site where the Confederates had attempted to cross the river to attack northern defenses, a police officer rode up to me in a gator. And he looked at me and he asked me what I was doing. And I told him, and he said, well, I'm from here. He says, you really want to know the true story? I said, well, I'd love to know the true story. He says, hop in. And he drove me around the battlefield in his police gator, telling me all these stories from the point of view of someone who had lived there all his life. Wow. So that information, of course, works its way into the stories. Right. And how I do things. And the fact that I have recreated as a reenactor all of these fights that I write about. I've actually done them. And so I have that personal point of view as well as the researcher's point of view. And that was one of the funny things that happened when we did Shiloh. We actually recreated the 150th anniversary of Shiloh at the times that some of the battles were actually taking place. And the very early morning fight, we started this thing at 6 o'clock in the morning. And you've got the mists rising up off the ground and everything, And as we walked out of the woods, out came the other guys, the opposition, on the other side of the woods. And here's the mist rising up off the ground. And they've got their weapons glinting in that early morning sunlight with their bayonets on it. And I'm looking at it, and I'm going, oh my God, it's the title of my book. Dawn's Gray Steel. I says, I'm living my book like this. And everybody on both sides of me just died laughing. None of them had read the book, so they knew exactly what I was talking about.
Yeah.
And it helps because I'm able to bring a point of view to the story that others cannot do.
Yeah.
Because of that. And paint those pictures with words and everything. So here we are doing our thing. I love to write. My students know that. They get a kick out of the fact that their teacher. A number of them, they come up and say, "Can we buy a copy? Can we get a copy?" Or like that. They go, "Yeah, of course you can."
Yeah.
But that kind of thing, it just makes me feel very, very good to know that I'm inspiring them, hopefully, to go above and beyond and do other things. And that's something I will add this, that I'm very, very proud of.
Awesome.
At last count, I have 48 former students of mine who are either teaching history or working in a history-related field, like in a museum or something of that nature, or that case may be. I'm proud of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm proud of that.
I would be too. I loved history in school. It's been so long since I've been, but the names you've mentioned, I haven't heard those since like high school, because we really don't study that afterwards unless you become like a history buff or someone. And
one of the things that was kind of unique, kind of unique too, was that I was allowed to teach a dedicated Civil War course. That was a 90 minutes a day, 5 days a week for a semester. We had a waiting list to get into the thing.
Wow.
They had to limit the number of students and the number of sessions that I could do, because I also taught AP U.S. history, everything. And when I first started teaching the course, it was very white, most of the kids who were taking it. By the time I retired, it was almost 50% minority, and a lot of them were girls. And it really surprised me, and I wasn't quite sure how to keep nailing this, because this was a very, very intense and very involved course. I mean, names, places, dates, all this kind of stuff. The story behind the story, so to speak, kind of thing as well. And I went to our principal, an African-American gentleman, Dr. Harris, and said, I'm a little concerned about this. And I explained to him what my fears were, because I said I have young women of color in the course, and I'm just not sure. Do I need to kind of change things a little bit like that? And he nearly fell out of his chair laughing at his desk. And he looks at me, he says, Mr. Korn, are you crazy? Don't change a thing. That's why they're coming to take the course, because they know they're going to get the truth. You're telling them the real story.
That's right.
Keep it up.
That's what we want.
Don't change like that. So, okay. But one of the things that was part of this was every single year, just before we went on Christmas recess, we took over the media center for the entire day. And I would bring in all kinds of reenactors, Civil War, male and female reenactors. And they would do programs all day long for the students and everything like that. And a lot of people commented on that. They said, well, when he leaves, that will probably go, and we will be sorry that that's not here anymore.
Yeah. And I loved history. I had a teacher in high school called Mr. Lotz. He was the youngest teacher, and of course all the girls liked him, but I liked his history teaching because he included everybody in there. He included not only the fighters that were white and Caucasian, but he also said that there was a Black unit, the Negro unit, that actually fought
Massachusetts
for the rights of the people as well. They didn't get the credit they deserved. It was a bunch of different things that he included, because he said you have the right and you are entitled to know the truth.
That's right.
And not to take it out. So we did have a teacher before him that took everything out. He didn't talk about the blacks fighting the Hispanics. He didn't talk about the Indians. He only talked about the you know, underneath the banner of this and that and the other, whatever. But when Mr. Lots came in, it was everything. It was the Seminole Indians. It was the Hispanics that came in from Spain. It was this, it was that. And I appreciate that. And I think, you know, as a woman and as a Black woman, I want to pass that history on to my kids. I think that that was the reason why you had so many Black women in your class, or Black girls, because we want the truth. I don't want fake stuff. I want to know. I want to know.
One of the things that's unique about this one, which is Tennessee Thunder, is that one of the main characters in the story is female. And that was Dr. Mary Walker, who was the first female combat surgeon and was in the Civil War. And she is the only woman in American history to ever have been awarded the Congressional Medal of Honor.
Good for her. Yes.
So, and she, you know, she was wearing it when they buried her. Yeah. So, she, you know, she wasn't about to let that go. But it's important. It's important to tell the story. And unfortunately, what is happening today with, you see things like critical race theory and some of the other stuff that's going on, is that they don't want to tell the truth.
No, they don't.
And I'm going, why? Our story, we are a nation that was built on people who fought literally to get ahead, who risked everything to get ahead. And in many cases lost their lives doing it, but they built the foundation for the rest of us to develop into the nation that we became, and still could be, and still should be. But I'm doing my best to continue to do this.
I love it. I love that you're telling the truth. We need the truth. We need to know that, you know, I need to know as a Black person that we had something to do with it too. And we've been
a lot to do with it.
We've been erased. Literally, the only thing that I knew when I was growing up was slavery. That's it. That's all I knew. I didn't know that we fought. I didn't know that we had a Black Wall Street. I didn't know that we had a lot of different things. I didn't know that Madam C. Walker, I didn't know about her either. I mean, there's just so much rich history, not only on the whites, not only on the Indians, because you have a lot of Indians too that were declared, but then the Blacks were just slaves.
The Continental Army in the American Revolution, 1 out of 7 Continental soldiers was a Black man.
There you go.
And you never hear about that.
No.
And it's like, folks, we had an integrated army to start with.
And that we didn't know that, you know, and that's probably the reason why we need you, you know, and we need these books, because literally, you know, to be a woman, to be a Black woman, to be a Black person, to be an Indian, to be a Hispanic person, to be a white person, you know, you're fighting side by side.
That's right.
You're fighting side by side. I mean, literally, I'm going to protect you just as much as you protect me. We need to win this war. Who cares what color you are? You know, we're trying to survive together here, and no one knows about that. And we need to know.
Well, we do our best. We're trying to do our best, but it's a struggle. I love to be in the classroom. I love my students. I mean, that's all there is to it. And teaching to me is the greatest passion in the world, and it is a passion. When I retired the first time, I thought I could walk away and enjoy it. No, didn't happen. 5 weeks later, I was in a college classroom, and I've been still teaching ever since. And people say, "When are you going to retire?" Retire. I said, "Why? Why retire when I love what I do?"
Yeah.
I said, "I love to work with these kids. I love to turn them on to learning about themselves and their country, because that's what it is. We're learning about ourselves. It isn't just our history. Our history is us. Our history is us. Who we are is who they were.
Right.
And we need to realize that, and we're only one generation away from losing it all if we're not careful.
You're right. Losing who we were, why we're at the place that we're at, and all the people that benefit, you know, that we're benefiting from. You know, we're losing that. And I'm glad that you didn't sit down idly by and watch it. And I love the fact that you've put it in these books and that you're teaching and that you're doing your passion. What kind of advice do you give to people? Because everybody thinks that they need to be this star, but literally we need people in the schools. We do, and I commend you, because my teachers were like the best people in the world. Okay, they knew everything, and as far as I was concerned, they were my stars. And you are the star. You're a teacher. You're teaching history. You're keeping that going. You're keeping those truths out there about how we formed and the battles and this. I love it. I love it. So what kind of advice do you give to those people that are coming up that want to be a teacher and they've been put down?
I'm a big Rocky fan. There's a great line that I love in his one of his last movies that he made as Rocky, the one where he comes out of retirement to fight one more time. Mm-hmm. He's having a conversation with his son out in the street, and he says to the young man about, it's not whether or not you get back up, it's whether you get back up and keep moving forward. Mm-hmm. Keep moving forward. Keep going. I have never, ever forgotten that line. And that is the way I feel, and that is exactly what I tell my students. I said, it's not the size of the dog in the fight, it's the size of the fight in the dog. If you want it and you are willing to pay the price to get there, you can do this. And I have said this to so many young people and older people, but mostly young people, in the course of my career, telling them very simply, I believe in you. Mm-hmm. And telling them that. And that's something else we need to do. We need to tell each other that we believe in each other, that we can help each other to get where they need to get, where they want to get.
Yeah.
No man is an island. I mean, that's a fact. We need others to do this, but we also need to hear it from others. Mm-hmm. That, hey, we're doing a good job. And that's something that has always been a very personal thing with me, is the idea of positive reinforcement. Yeah. And to tell, and explain, okay, you didn't do this so well and everything, but you did this really, really well, and whatever the case, and just keep pushing, give them that positive, hey, hello. One of the things as a teacher that I've always made a point of doing as soon as possible, and still try to do as much as possible, is knowing my students, greeting them at the door, talking to them, touching when possible, appropriate, and so on, and just keep that personal type of connection that's there and that's involved. And that has gone on even after they're no longer students of mine. I've been to many weddings of former students, graduations, a couple of christenings, believe it or not, and some other things. They were all former students. That's the connection. They're former students. I laugh about it some ways. I'll give you one real quick story. When I retired, when I announced I was retiring, I had a local family who had 5 children. I had taught 4 of the 5. Wow. The father went to my principal and asked me to unretire so I could teach number 5.
Aww.
Like that. And of course, I didn't, but that made me feel pretty darn good to know that it happened. So they both told me about it. So I said, okay, all right. But I just love it. I love it. I love to write. The books are, people come up to me and say, I can't tell you how many times I've had this silly comment about, were you there? Kind of thing. That's well, if I was, I'm 170 years old now or something like that.
Yeah, right.
But I said, boy, I look really good for my age and everything like that. So I just enjoy it. It's fun. It's not work to me. My grandchildren get, of course, my children and my grandchildren. My son used to reenact with me, and his children are being exposed to all of this as well. And they will continue to be. And I want them to, them and their friends and whatever else, say, hey, come and play, come and play, come and see, come and do whatever, and just learn and have fun doing it. Learning is so much fun. It can be.
Oh yeah, I agree. Definitely.
So,
Wow. Well, thank you so much. Where can people find your book?
you can go on Amazon. I'm on Amazon. Both the books are on Amazon. Dawn's Gray Steel. You want the one that looks like this Paper Bites, and then Tennessee Thunder. I'm not the Daniel Korn who wrote Cannibal. Okay, there is a book on Amazon, which I was shocked when I saw that. It's the name and everything. I'm like, whoa, I don't know who he is, but it's not me.
Okay.
I am working on a third that will complete the trilogy, hopefully, if we are able to finish doing this. But yes, they're on Amazon, Barnes and Noble. There's also a website that they can go to. That is www. A Yankee Rebel Presents. And it'll come up with my website. And actually, they just put in www.ayr presents and .com. And it'll come up to the website. And the website has links to Amazon and all of that as well. They can also go to, I also am the president and co-founder of an organization called the Society of Civil War Enthusiasts. And that's on Facebook. And it has quite a few thousand people now following it. And every single day you will find on that site what happened on that date every year of the Civil War.
Wow.
With pictures and videos and so on and so forth, et cetera, attached to it. So I keep updating it and changing things and adding stuff to it as time goes on and other things are going on. I'm putting more and more things on it. When I travel, like I just did this past weekend, a lot of that stuff also goes into the sites as well. Pictures so people can actually see and videos so people can actually see what these places are like.
Wow. Well, I want to thank you so much, not only because you're writing, but because you're going to the places, you're actually visiting the places, you actually have like these extra little events that happen during your visitations, but most of all that you're keeping it real and you're telling the truth. And that's what we need. We need people that are going to tell the truth. We don't need no more lies. How would they say, don't say it, it's not a lie if you don't say anything. No, it's still a lie. It's still a lie. And so we definitely need you. Please do not retire anytime soon if you don't have to. Well, thank you so much, Mr. Korn. We're going to have all of his information about the books, the links and everything in the description box below. And if you're watching on another channel where there is no description box, please go ahead and go to our website so that you can be directed to the Amazon site. So wherever you need to go, we're going to actually put this up in our bookstore so that you can actually get this as well. So I want to thank you guys so much again for tuning in. And Mr. Korn, thank you so much for being on the show. I appreciate it.
You're very, very welcome. Thank you for the opportunity.
Anytime. And you guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment below. And until next time, guys, have a great day. Bye.
Yeah. You are kidding.